Well, the President once again calling on people to behave better in local government and for councils to be managed better. While speaking at that local government conference, it's supposed to be about creating what would be called the ideal municipality. Dr. Thina Nzo is with the Public Affairs Research Institute. Dr. Nzo, good afternoon to you. We can talk about the ideal municipality all we like, but we have the situation on the ground that we all have to live with. Does it help to talk about the ideal situation? Does it help to talk about what the perfect example of a council would be?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, from an optimistic perspective, giving hope to citizens is very important as the president. But again, this doesn't mean that we cannot really confront the realities, or should I say the lived experiences that we encounter with local government as citizens, where our local government system is continuously failing us, not only just on service delivery, but also failing us in terms of contributing towards the economic growth that we should see locally. So, reality check is very important as well, rather than only looking at things from an optimistic perspective. But yes, hope is something that we should be looking forward to in order for us to address these issues.
It seems to me, in a way, it's relatively simple. What we want is for a council to do probably just to make services work, to make them cheap, and then to try and improve them on a continuous basis. Is it any harder than that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what we expect. When you look at the various service delivery issues that we are faced with, particularly your infrastructure, we are in a terrible crisis where we have dilapidating infrastructure that is actually not serving the purpose that it should serve, particularly to citizens and your rates and taxpayers. But also what is more, concerning, Stephen, is the fact that the infrastructure that we have in terms of its development, it's not actually developing in a way that it can attract, economic investments in our municipalities, because municipalities end up spending a lot of money trying, to resuscitate old, aging infrastructure that could have been addressed a long time ago if there was proper planning to be made in municipalities by those who are given the responsibility in the administration and political office.
We keep having more and more suggestions. At the moment, we all talk about the district development model. There was, I think it was called the City Support Program from the Treasury. I'm sure there have been programs before that, Dr. Nzo. I mean, are there too many programs? Do they have any impact whatsoever?
Yes, Stephen, there have been a lot of programs. I mean, if you read the report that was recently published by the National Treasury that looks at capacity building initiatives that have been done for the past 20 to 21 years, you find that these capacity building initiatives and support programs, they lack coordination, they're not properly integrated, but also the underlying factor to these issues is that billions and billions of rands have been spent, on various programs such as GIPSA, even the establishment, of MISA as well, that is supposed to provide support to municipalities, especially municipalities that are struggling with infrastructure planning and also infrastructure development and revenue generation. So yes, in the past there have been these programs, but because of lack of coordination, it's very difficult for these programs to make an impact. And to be quite frank with you, Stephen, sometimes what we do in South Africa is that we tend, to develop new interventions without reviewing the real issues that have contributed towards the ineffectiveness of previous interventions. And sometimes I have to actually say, frankly, that the political issues that are emanating in local government, particularly issues that have to do with poor governance, poor oversight, institutional capacity that is very weak. Those are some of the issues that we are overlooking, instead of actually dealing with these issues head on. So political will is needed here also to actually help municipalities get out of this dire strait that they are in.
Dr. Nzo, I mean, in a way, what you say could be controversial, except the President made exactly this point at the policy conference. In a statement and a quote which I found frankly quite odd, almost aggressive, but certainly important. He said this, if I remember correctly. He said that the Culture Minister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, this is Cyril Ramaphosa's words now, always says that the problem is us. Though when people protest about service delivery, they're protesting against us, the African National Congress. That was his quote about what Dr. Dlamini Zuma says. It's a huge thing to say. Clearly, you agree with him.
Absolutely. I mean, it's confronting, the reality, because we know that pre-2016, majority of the local councils were under the political administration of the ANC. And yes, when they started to lose popularity, especially, your popular vote that is coming from the electorate post 2016 and couldn't recover the base, especially in your metropolitan areas, it says a lot about the democratic deficit, or should I even say citizens' disillusionment with the ANC. So yes, the ANC has also contributed towards the mismanagement of these municipal councils, especially municipal councils that were actually under their political authority. And coming to confront with that reality is very important. But the big question is, what is on the table? What is the ANC going to do to turn around the situation and also win back the confidence of voters? Under these circumstances, when you look at your metropolitan areas and the kind of power grapple that is going on in between these coalition governments, you can see that, there isn't a plan except a plan of just regaining power and getting back into the steering wheel and pillaging the resources that we have, in fact, little resources that we have in the country.
Dr. Thina Nzo, thank you very much indeed from the public